Hey there, folks. Today we're diving into the wild world of the global economy. Think of the global economy as a giant party. Everyone's invited. Countries, businesses, regular people like you and me. We're all connected. We buy stuff from each other, we invest in each other's economies, and we rely on each other to keep the party going. But like any good party, things can get messy. Currencies fluctuate like a drunk uncle at a wedding. Trade imbalances pop up like unwanted party crashes. And every once in a while, the whole thing threatens to fall apart like a poorly assembled IKEA bookshelf. That's where international monetary reform comes in. All right, let's rewind the clock a bit. Picture this. It's 1944, World War II is winding down, and the world is a complete mess. Economies are in shambles, currencies are all over the place, and nobody wants to trade with each other because, well, everyone's broke and traumatized. So a bunch of really smart people got together in a place called Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They wanted to figure out a way to rebuild the global economy and prevent another Great Depression. Their solution? The Bretton Woods Agreement. This agreement created a system of fixed exchange rates. Basically, it meant that currencies were pegged to the US dollar, which was in turn pegged to gold. But as we all know, even the best parties have to end sometime, and so it was with the Bretton Woods Agreement. By the early 1970s, the system was under strain. The US was printing more dollars than it had gold to back them up. It was like promising everyone at the party unlimited free drinks, but only having a six-pack in the fridge. Other countries started to get nervous. They didn't want to be left holding worthless dollars. So they started cashing in their dollars for gold, putting a strain on the US gold reserves. In 1971, President Nixon decided to ditch the gold standard and let the dollar float freely. Chaos ensued. The fixed exchange rate system collapsed and the world entered a new era of floating exchange rates. Currencies were now free to fluctuate against each other, based on supply and demand. With the end of Bretton Woods, the global economy entered a new era. It was a time of both great opportunity and great risk. Globalization took off, with trade and investment flowing across borders like never before. But this interconnectedness also came with a dark side, global imbalances. Some countries, like China and Germany, became export powerhouses, racking up huge trade surpluses. Meanwhile, other countries like the US became addicted to cheap imports and accumulated massive trade deficits. This imbalance, combined with other factors like deregulation and financial speculation, created a recipe for disaster. It was like pumping the global economy full of sugary energy drinks, and crash it did. The IMF referee or ringside doctor. Now, amidst all this economic chaos, there's one institution that often finds itself at the center of the storm, the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. Think of it as the referee of the global economy, or maybe more accurately, the ringside doctor. Created in the aftermath of World War II alongside the Bretton Woods Agreement, the IMF's mission is to promote international monetary cooperation and provide financial assistance to countries facing economic difficulties. But the IMF is a controversial figure. Critics argue that the IMF's policies often benefit wealthy countries and corporations at the expense of developing nations. It's like the IMF is trying to treat a patient for a broken leg by amputating the entire limb. 2008, the year the music almost stopped. Remember that crash we were talking about? Well, it happened in 2008 and it was a doozy. The global financial system, built on a foundation of shaky mortgages, complex financial instruments, and a whole lot of greed, came crashing down. Banks collapsed, stock markets plummeted, and the world was plunged into the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. It was a stark reminder that despite all our talk of globalization and interconnectedness, when the economic excrement hits the fan, everyone's looking out for themselves. Governments around the world scrambled to contain the damage. They bailed out banks, implemented stimulus packages, and prayed to whatever economic deity they believed in that it wouldn't happen again. The 2008 financial crisis exposed the fundamental flaws in the global financial system. Reforming the system, easier said than done. So after the 2008 crisis, there was a lot of talk about reforming the global financial system. Everyone agreed that something had to change. We couldn't just go back to business as usual and wait for the next crisis to hit. There were calls for greater regulation of financial institutions, increased transparency in financial markets, and a more equitable global economic order. It was like everyone at the party suddenly realized they were locked inside and the only way out was to work together to find the keys. But as with any good party, actually getting everyone to agree on a plan was a different story. Some countries wanted to maintain the status quo. Others wanted radical change. Progress has been made, but it's been slow and incremental. Digital dollars and the future of money. Hold on to your hats, folks, because the future of money might be about to get a whole lot weirder. We're talking about central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Basically, CBDCs are like digital versions of cash, but issued and backed by a country's central bank. Proponents of CBDCs argue that they could make transactions faster, cheaper, and more secure. They could also help to promote financial inclusion, giving people without access to traditional banking services a way to participate in the digital economy. But there are also concerns about privacy, security, and the potential for CBDCs to be used for surveillance and control. After all, do we really want the government to have a detailed record of every transaction we make? The development of CBDCs is still in its early stages, but it has the potential to revolutionize the global financial system. Whether this revolution will be a good or bad thing remains to be seen.